All right, well, if that's the case, then I'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, I'm Marjorie Winters, we have Jason Levy, Charlie Halderman, Joe Campanita, Don Eaton, and we have our town staff, Tom Hazel. So, new business, we have 21-23, 115 and 130, Castor Bridge Crossing, Crown Properties Holdings LLC applicant, Dorset Crossing LLC owner, residential developments of lot D and G. So good evening, we have the applicant here. David, or
Yes.
Yes. Hi.
Yes. Good evening, folks. I was having a little trouble messing around with the internet before I came onto the Zoom. So yeah, there's probably all kinds of issues with Amazon's all-encompassing system. I guess there's no rush to go home because I don't think Netflix is working on the East Coast. So anyhow,
It was working.
I'm a professional engineer with F.A. Hesketh. We're located over in East Granby. And as you can see, Richard down below, he's representing the applicant. Tony Giorgio was going to be on somewhere, but maybe he's in the Amazon world. He's the longtime owner and developer of Dorset Crossing, dating back now over a decade since we started the construction there. I have a little slides on PowerPoint, which is the easiest way to, I think, present to you folks.
Share screen should be open for you.
Yeah, how's that look?
Looks good.
Yeah. Let me switch to slideshows so we get through all that stuff. As we all know, we have a nice sign out at Route 10, Hot Meadow Street for Dorset Crossing. You can see in the background on that photo is the original building that was built now over a decade ago. This is an aerial photo, recent aerial photo of the entire site. So this is Hot Meadow Street, Route 10 over here on the right-hand side. This main road coming in is actually called Dorset Crossing. And then this secondary road is called Cambridge Crossing. Those are both town roads. They're set up to be potentially extended to the south in the future.
Dave, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you did the same thing I always do.
Yes,
isn't it Castor Bridge Crossing, not Cambridge Crossing?
Oh, what did I call it? Cambridge? Yeah, it's Castor. It's Castor Bridge. Yes,
I do the same thing all the time.
I've never seen a Castor Bridge before, so that's why I'm stuck on Cambridge. Sorry about that. And then this is a mini roundabout here that's set up to potentially go off to the north for any development that occurs there. But this is the mixed use part. Tony Giorgio has an office in this building here, as well as there's some medical uses in this building, and it's been laid out for additional buildings here. This is the Point, I believe it's called now, apartments that were built several years ago, located right here. This is a multi-family building that was constructed for special needs housing, located here a couple of years ago. We obtained a permit for that. And the focus for tonight is this lot D and lot G, which are the last two lots in Dorset Crossing. Saxton Brook corridor runs right behind the apartments here, between lots G and the apartments, and then continues on, goes through the old tobacco barns on Route 10, then goes under a large culvert under Route 10, and then goes directly to the Farmington River. This is the master plan, sort of the Bible for Dorset Crossing. It gives all the parameters for all the various developments. And for lots D and G on the master plan, it's called for 72 units of multifamily housing in 2 buildings, which is what we're going to be showing you this evening. So this has been consistent with the master plan now dating back to over a decade. This is a colored rendering of our site plan for this evening. Again, this is Castor Bridge Crossing. It will end in a cul-de-sac at this location here. If it's ever extended to the south, we plan to leave this as a feature between the 2 buildings, and the roadway would continue through and extend in that fashion. But back a couple of years ago, I was before the commission and the zoning commission for plans for the construction of the extension of the road. Right now, this is a temporary road that's out there now. If you drive out there, you'll see there's a small cul-de-sac located here. The plan is to extend this road, in full conformance with town standards for a town road. And we have to replace this old farm culvert that Saxton Brook is now flowing through under the road. We're going to replace that with a properly sized box culvert in this location. And you folks gave us a full permit to do that. That work will now be done as part of this construction of these two buildings. So this will all meet town standards when we're done. But over here on Lot D, you can see we would have a 3-story building with 30 units. And you'll notice on both these lots, the amount of surface parking is very low for, you would think, for 72 units. And that's because the bulk of the parking is in the basement of these buildings or on the first floor of these buildings, if you want to call it that. The entrance to these is in a fashion that you probably have seen in other multifamily buildings, but you would enter in on Lot D here, you'd enter in on the west side of the building and gain access to your parking here. And over here on Lot G, you would enter in on the easterly side of the building and gain access to your parking here. So really, this parking outside is pretty much for visitors and just some additional parking for tenants. But normally you would see for, 72 units, you'd see like between 140 and 150 paved parking spaces. And we have, much less than that on both lots. So that's the advantage of having the inside parking, underneath parking. Lot D is about 2.5 acres. Lot G is bigger. It's about 4.5 acres. And abutting us, this is Lot E. This was already dedicated as open space as part of the subdivision. And then we set aside about 1.5 acres of conservation area right in this area here, just north of our developed area. That's on Lot G. But so the wetland and watercourse corridor, the Saxton Brook corridor, is either in open space or in a conservation area. And, the apartments for the point are right under where all these notes are, right over in this area here. If we take a look at going back to that aerial photo, I skipped over one comment I wanted to make. As you can see on both lots, the main area where we're going to be doing our development, that's an area that has been disturbed several times over the years. You can see where that temporary cul-de-sac is right there. This area has been cleared and it's been used for staging and gravel operations. If your folks are familiar at all, Dorset Crossing, before anything was built here, was a former gravel and sand operation on this entire piece. It was actually zoned industrial before the zone change. And running through the site from the west to the east, right in this area here, is a relatively deep sanitary sewer. It's the main interceptor sewer for all of the housing to the west, up on County and Hoskins and those areas up there. That was installed in the 1970s, right along the bottom of the slope here. So these two lots have been disturbed several times over the years. And our development area is pretty much within those areas that have been previously disturbed. Looking at our GR1 plan, which is the main grading plan, which really, when you look at it, it looks like a giant bowl of spaghetti. But what I did was I colored the Saxton Brook is in blue, and then the wetland corridor associated with the brook is in green. And you can see it's within the conservation area and the open space areas. We have the upland review area, which is this red line, 100 feet from the wetlands. So you can see some of the corners of the buildings are within there and some of our parking area. But what we've successfully done is avoided any direct impact to the wetlands. We're entirely within the upland review areas, and for the most part in areas that have already been previously disturbed. And we have kept our development outside the open space lot and outside of the conservation area, so we don't have to go into the conservation area for any of the work associated with this construction. As far as the drainage goes, it follows the master plan that's been approved for Dorset, which these lots that are sort of southerly of Saxton Brook, north being straight up on the page. These lots were intended to have their own stormwater systems on them. unlike the areas to the north of the brook, those all go to a large detention basin that was built as part of Dorset, but these do not. These drain to the brook. So what we have is a combination of underground storage, piping, and chambers and infiltrator chambers, a mixture of those to accommodate to accomplish the goals, which is to have less peak flows and take advantage of the sands and gravel soils that are on these lots to do infiltration to minimize the amount of volume of water leaving the site as well. And for Lot D, again, per the plans that were approved for Castor Bridge Crossing, we'll be connecting into a catch basin that's going to be constructed there. So there's no new outlet to the brook from Lot D. The underground systems will connect to that catch basin. And then over here on Lot G, we have a retaining wall down on this side of the building, and there'll be a new open water quality basin constructed right here. And you can see it's rather small given the size, but that's because of the limited parking area that we really have here. We'll be constructing a new water quality basin here, and we'll have a discharge and overflow located here outside the conservation area, a new discharge there. You know, our calculations show that these flows are going to be pretty small because a lot of this water is going to be infiltrated on the property, and it will only be like the really much larger storms that are going to end up with really any discharge. All in all, the design easily meets the Connecticut DEP's water quality standards and recommendations. When you see our calculations, this is a very conservative design in that regards. For the underground parking, there's going to be some floor drains down there. The amount of water that's going to be generated down there will be very small. It'll be snow melt off the cars or maybe occasional wash down of the floors. But those floor drains will be connected to the sanitary sewer after they go through a oil grit separator. That's by DEP code. So none of the water down inside the parking garages will be connected to the storm drainage system. We have a full erosion and sedimentation control plan built into the plans that meets the town's requirements and DEP's design recommendations. We have a full landscape plan. This is the landscape plan. Along the edges that are parallel to the wetland corridor, we have some retaining walls to minimize our footprint. And then downstream of those retaining walls, we'll be putting in, buffer plantings, native buffer plantings that you can find in our table LS2 and LS3 sheet numbers. You'll see the listing for those, but it's basically all conservation shrubberies, things that we've used successfully on many projects, very similar to this. They'll jumpstart the growth along the face of our disturbance, and then Mother Nature will fill in the rest very quickly. And then there won't be any further disturbance, along those edges after everything is stabilized. The water, it will be Aquarian water is in Castor Bridge Crossing. We'll be extending that. And the sanitary sewer will be connecting into the interceptor. That's actually right here in this easement that runs right along the sides of our buildings. That's where that town sewer is located. It's been out there hiding on these lots now for the last 35 years or so. And that's basically it. That's my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions the commission has.
Thank you, David. So the roof drainage, will that be going to the underground infiltration basins?
Yes.
All right. And the landscape plan, I noticed there are a lot of plants, non-native, like the Japanese spirea, which can be somewhat invasive. I know in other projects we've tried to encourage the developers to use. I know you've got a lot of natives in there, but we'd love to see even more.
Well, I would, maybe if you could, through staff, give us a recommendation maybe from the commission as a few species, and we can make those adjustments in time for the next meeting.
Will do. Okay. We can get that to you.
I'll just have to have an argument with my landscape architect, but that's okay. I'll do that.
That's all right. That's all right. But yeah,
I'll blame the commission if you don't mind.
that we'd be happy to. I'll be blamed for putting in those native plants. That's sort of the goal in the town, is to choose the natives.
Mhm.
The other commissioners have any questions?
When you talk about basement parking, is it like underground or just on the surface and the buildings are on piles?
No, it's a little bit of a combination because of the grading on the site. But like, for instance, over here on Lot D, the only place that you'll see any foundation is up here on the northerly wall. This is truly a basement down in this area all through here. So this is a drive down under the building. Around the outside here,
Okay.
These are all patios at grade on the first floor. So the parking is below that. On this building on G, it's similar. This is basically all basement here. And then the grade starts to drop off over here. But again, this driveway goes down under the building. So it's, I guess you could call it basement parking or underneath parking, but it's under the first floor. But its building is definitely not on stilts. It's on a concrete foundation.
Yeah, for Dave's aspect, just so you know that if north is to the top of the page, to the southwesterly side of it, it's kind of a hillside there, hence the retaining walls along there. While they're not monstrous retaining walls, I think it's 10 feet at its maximum height down to 3 feet. But you're kind of tucked into a hillside to the southwest.
That's correct.
Is it turf grass in the areas that are shaded gray on this plan?
Yeah, we're looking at having that as mowed grass. We have, but here where the water quality basin is, we have conservation mix there. And then any around the edges, this is all conservation mix around the edges. But, immediately around the building would be mowed grass.
And do you have a maintenance plan for that? Low fertilization, no herbicides?
Yes, we do. I think it's on our note sheet, but let me. I'll check that. Well, if there's any other questions, I'll check that.
Yeah, and just for the commission's aspect, the reason for the preservation of that grass through the two buildings is to preserve a possible road corridor.
Yeah.
While we do have the solar field out to the southwest and to the west, there's still contention on that, and there's future uses that may become. So we'd like to preserve that corridor. And while we don't want to do asphalt now, we want to preserve it at least as a accessible area in the future if that ever became a subdividable part of the town's, not our property, but of future use, let's say.
Yeah.
In answer to that question, I have the long-term stormwater plan on our NT sheet, but I can add the site maintenance plan for landscaping as well. If you'd like to see that, I can add that.
That would be good.
Yeah.
Would be good.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions from the commissioners?
No.
All right. Well, we have received it. We don't have to vote on that. We just,
You can take a vote on the receipt of the application just to make it in stone for this evening. And
Okay.
that starts the clock for Dave and his people, and we'll see it at the next meeting in 2 weeks. And the receipt, you could decide whether we just hold it or for some reason you feel that there's need for a public hearing for the qualifications that state statute sets.
did we have public hearings? I don't think we had public hearings on the other part of Dorset Crossing, did we, Dave? Or
We had a public hearing for the overall master plan,
we've already,
wetlands. Yeah, but subsequent applications, no, we haven't.
no, I didn't think so. So Tom, so do we have a motion to receive this application tonight?
I'll motion that we receive this application.
Who's second?
I will second.
All right, Joey, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any nays, no. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll see you at the next.
Yes. Thank you. Hopefully Amazon will fix its bugs by then so we can, in the
And
public.
we'll get you some selections for the landscape plan.
Yes, please, yes, send that to Tom. And in the meantime, I think the other thing too is I will add the landscape maintenance schedule too.
Yes.
Thank you.
I do have, this has nothing to do with that's out of my own curiosity, but on that aerial shot,
Yes.
slide 2,
Yep. Let me go
what's
back.
that big field off to the, I guess it would be the southwest.
That's still in
Right here.
that big,
Yeah.
yeah. What's that?
that's still owned. Isn't that still owned by what's their names?
No, I think Griffin Land now in Dust. I think they sold that all off with the solar fields, but
There's a part over there that
the
Griffin
panels
still-
haven't made it that far quite yet. You know.
Yeah, no, Griffin still owns a part somewhere around here, but I don't know
Well,
where.
this is all owned by Griffin. This big
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
here, and I think they still own north of us.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
this
think they
is
sold that.
all part of the solar panel thing down. at
Yeah,
the
this
bottom.
here is solar panels. If you're driving up County or Hoskins, you can see them up there.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's, if they're not shown here, they will be or are solar panels.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is probably a little, Google varies. Sometimes we get them, they're right on the money, and then others sometimes they're a couple years old.
Yeah, they're riding around about 2019 right now, so they're a little bit behind
Yeah.
for that area.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Good night, Dave.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right. So the next item is old business. Do we have any old business, Tom?
We have no old business. I don't want to get into the minutes because we're not on live stream, just in
No,
case.
we'll hold off. We will table. Do we have a motion to table the general commission business, the minutes for November 16th?
Yeah, I would make that motion. So moved.
Second.
Jason, you're seconding. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, good.
Um,
And what about the agent actions?
we
That's-
can go into that because it's already been publicized. It's already been done. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It was for Three the Muse. They were putting a front porch on their house, and quite frankly, I think if I sent the picture of the plans, I don't know if I have it in here. Just want to check. I think there were like 4 to 6 piers for the front deck, and it was in the Upland Review. I think there were 8-inch to 10-inch sonotubes. So very minimal disturbance. It was in front of the house. Every disturbance was sheltered by the house. So I felt no reason to bring it before the commission for approval. I allowed them to move forward and to do the piers and put a porch with a roof on it in front of their house.
Great. Thank you.
Very good.
If the porch was on the Upland Review, how wasn't the house on the Upland Review? Was it like right on the edge, or?
It's kind of, we have 100-foot upland review. So the farthest corner of the house is probably within 25 feet, maybe even as close as 10. I don't know off the top of my hand. From the looks of it, it very much curved around the house. So it was a sweeping curve from our thing. And the age of the house may dictate the fact of whether it needed wetlands approval or not. I don't have that at my beck and call right now. If anything was in the early 70s, most likely it wouldn't have required any kind of wetlands approval at the time of the building of the house. The Three the Muse, I'm unfortunately still not familiar enough with the town to know the age of subdivisions.
Yeah, it's about right. It was about
Yeah.
that time.
And I appreciate all your knowledge that you all folks have from living in the town as long as you've had. So
Hey, there's still wetlands mapped on my property, and
you're nowhere near it.
Yeah.
there's nothing but sand there. We proved that with the excavation.
And you certainly have a delineator by the railroad tracks right behind your house.
Yeah, it magically ends right at the railroad tracks in a perfect line. Yeah.
We won't talk creosote today.
Close enough. All right. So So that's the agent's actions, and we don't need to vote on that. That's
Nope.
already done. And so correspondence.
All right. So for correspondence, in talking to Marjorie, we wanted to bring up a couple of things. And Marjorie, you may be able to talk more in detail, but a couple of the open space committees works have been accepted and voted on by the Board of Selectmen. I believe two notable ones were the proposed revisions to the open space natural stewardship policy. And then we also had the proposed open space acquisition criteria and guidelines, which is a lot of work over a long period of time.
Long.
And Marjorie can attest to that. You could probably do a better talk to it than I can. I know
Well,
Susan.
I'd like the commissioners, yeah, if we could attach those to the next commissioner report.
Yeah, I will.
Um,
I will add the entire documents to it so you guys can review them.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. It was, I mean, we put a lot of time and effort into it, and I think we got where we needed to be.
A lot of it was wordsmithing. It was just really we didn't have a formalized set of criteria for selecting open space land. I mean, it's getting later and later in the game because there's less and less open space to purchase, but it was a criteria for what type of land would we want to, and most of them were conservation based: water quality, aquifer protection, habitat, some cultural, some recreational, but these were all listed things that would be good to have as an open, criteria for open space. But it was sadly lacking in. We're trying to at the open space. We're trying to get to put into policy and write down the things that we need for open space. So it's and it's with the input of the various land use commissions in town. So.
And it hopefully end up having us end up with little pie pieces. I mean, because one of our problems with I think I've voiced this in the open space committee, but one of the problems with regulations and zoning regulations is that we have policies to try to acquire open space with subdivisions because it benefits the town to have buffers between people. But what we end up usually getting from contractors is the stuff that they can't build on. While it's good habitat, that might meet our criteria, but sometimes it's just stuff that they just don't want. And so with a nice open space criteria, it's nice to be able to evaluate what they're offering us and what we're able to look at, and that it meets some standards to us, that it's valuable to the community and it's valuable to everybody. And I think we did a really good job of spelling some stuff out.
And I also think the purchase of Meadowwood fit most of the criteria that we had established. So it does give weight to the town when they do want to go in and do a budget referendum for purchase of land, if it meets the criteria set out by the POCD as well as the open space criteria.
And that for large acquisitions is great. And those don't come along very often, and we're going to run out of those probably first because space is limited. But these little things, I'm talking from the planning side. She's talking from the stewardship side. And my thing is to just have a tool to say, that's not really worth it. I want to carve that piece out. Have your engineer carve that piece out. But these bigger acquisitions, it's wonderful to be able to have that to stand on as well. And hopefully we'll be able to use the tools in both directions as we move forward.
Charlie, you wanted to say something.
I'll just, as part of what you guys have been doing for the last year or two is sort of also evaluating the policy making roles around open space and the relationship between different committees. Do you have that formalized at this point in time?
What do you mean?
Well, like when open space started, there was a question about an open space committee. There was about whether some of the jurisdiction that was within sort of the conservation group. There was some discussion about those there's discussion about where things were relative to the park group. So it sounds like, is this becoming the overarching, the place where we discuss town policy over this? And then with conjunction with the other standing commissions?
Yeah, it seems to be, it is the one place where you got all the different land use commissions together. One of the things that came up, was it 2 years ago now, we had a open space and parks and recs plan.
Right.
And that was minimally, I think, successful. It was very successful for parks and recs. It wasn't particularly successful for open space, because I think open space got subsumed under that. And it was one of my concerns that it really wasn't good to put the two together. But it was, that didn't happen, to separate them. And there wasn't the budget to separate them. But at least we're trying to make progress. The open space has not been a particularly active group for many, many years. And so it's nice to see it's finally working on some of these policies.
Right. I think it was unclear whether that was going to be the place where it was done in the beginning.
Yeah.
But it sounds to me like, that you figured out the role between that and park.
Yeah.
And they've got their stuff sort of organized, and we're making progress on this end, which, as a regulatory, having some regulatory responsibility, we will feed into that as that will be where that discussion is held.
Yeah, I think we've got the regulatory position only for as far as inland wetlands.
Right.
Yeah, right. Conservation, but we're trying to get those things in through that door. For instance, the agricultural policy, which I think has been accepted, hasn't it, Tom? The
agricultural policy, I think so. If I recall, we got that pretty down to, because we got the RFP through.
Yeah.
And that's just going through the town attorney at this point. And I think the ag policy was with that as well.
So the agricultural policy, we did not really have an agricultural policy. So we looked to various other towns to see what they were doing, Manchester, and I can't remember the other one. And they had pretty good policies. So we cobbled together from them the best of their policies to put in. So we had agricultural practices to improve the soil and the health of our farmland. And so before that, I think it was left up to the town engineer to approve whatever farmer came in, which was,
Oh, that's unfortunately that's landed in my lap. I'm not. I'm the one who holds all those cards. So,
but at least we have a guidance document. Before There was no guidance document for other ones. How much were they willing to pay for use of the land? Yeah. And we've also got it so that it's got a 5-year rolling lease, so that the farmers will be able to invest in their land. Because if you're only doing a 1-to-1 year lease, we're hoping to have that out to the public in January or February for proposals for the lands that we have available. We have 2 individuals who were in use of the Meadowood acquisition properties that are open for agricultural uses that are interested in re-upping. And then we have 1 open space to the east of Barndoor Hills. The onion farmer who was between Napolitano is not going to re-up, so that'll be up as well. And then I have to talk to Hall to see what their aspects are for the next year for a re-up, because I think they have 1 more round to go. If not, they'll be available for a re-up as well. So we've got a new document in place at the time that we have a lot of parcels that are going to be up for rebidding. And so hopefully all this work that they've done will come out and we'll be able to have good practices as well as good bids and good farmers in place and make use of the lands. And if we don't get a farmer for the Meadowood Triangle area, I know we've got a mugwort problem up near the vernal pool that needs to be addressed.
Well, there's an issue with that's deeper, and we'll probably have a sidebar about that before we get into open space about how we want to deal with that. But that parceling will probably go through open space. The Board of Selectmen will approve that, how that's going to be utilized, and then we'll go from there. But that's a little bit of a longer term thing. Next season probably won't change the looks of the triangle, but hopefully the year after that we'll have a plan in place. It's going to be.
Well, we need to get on that mugwort, because that mugwort will take over the whole field.
Yeah. Oh no, I hear you on that. And like you said, your balance between your open space committee, conservation commission, and Parks and Rec, because Parks and Rec has the overriding authority on the open spaces. We have, I don't want to use the word dictatorial, but we have some kind of power over the fact of what methodologies or how it's used, as well as the Board of Selectmen has input about acceptance of a master plan over it. It's a little bit of a process, but that triangle's not, I think the overarching general thing I threw out wasn't too egregious, but I have a feeling there's going to be a few residents that are going to get up in arms, so it's going to be a little bit of a battle.
So Tom, if you can send out the things that the open space has been working on to the commissioners.
I will make sure that the open space documents that we talked about this evening will be in the next packet on the Dropbox, and we'll have another conversation about that under correspondence. I think we're good.
Excellent.
Good. What triangle were you talking about?
It's the Barn Door Hills, Hoskins Firetown, I think.
Yeah.
That triangle up there. There's a little wetlands pocket to the north side of it.
Is that like next to
The Plains.
where Steve Antonio is, or across the street?
Yeah, it's south of Steve Antonio.
Okay,
North
but
of Firetown.
Okay, it's on that side, the right hand side as you're going up.
Yeah, if you Hoskins. Hoskins is over here, Firetown's down here, and Barn Door Hills is over here. And it just creates that triangle. We mow it once a year. There's a couple of barns on it. The barns we just acquired are the south side of Firetown. There's two barns, I think, on the north side, if I'm correct.
Okay, so it's the property where the barns are.
Yeah,
Not across the street. Like on Steve's side, for lack of a better term, Steve's side of the.
Steve's to the north. Like if you've got the triangle like this, we lease out these properties over here. Steve's up to the north there, and there's a triangle right there. And it was agricultural historically. And then at some point it fell out of favor, and there was a little bit of a contention about it. And that's why I say there will be probably some the way I've proposed it is trying to meet the middle ground, is just the way I'm putting it. And we'll go through that process, but it will be a process for open space to propose to the BOS.
Yeah, I know my friend picked tobacco there. So
You don't want to put like high-rise condominiums there or anything?
No, I was just going for a 82-story spire. I don't know about that.
like Space Needle.
I think we should try and outdo the Burj Khalifa.
Yeah.
That'd be right in character with town.
Let me get those soils checked out.
Aren't we glad we're not live? Yeah.
Yeah.
It is being recorded.
All right. So we'll get more discussion on this next time as well.
And we are allowed to have a little fun while we have.
Yes, we are. And one of the things I think open space is going to be discussing at the next meeting, which I hope, at least in the work group, is a meadow mowing plan for
Mowing plan.
because it all depends if you want grassland birds, if you want wildflowers. I mean, it's you have to mow them at different times, and that gets down to what the soil is on the particular thing, how wet it is in the spring, and things like that. So we're hoping to get policies on that as well. So these are a lot of things we didn't have in open space, and we're trying to get guidance documents for what the town wants and where. So anyway, any other questions? Anything on that? Anyone wants to know? Okay. All right. So conservation business, I think we've pretty much touched on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us to, unless anyone has anything else to bring up, adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Charlie. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thanks, everyone. And if
Thank
we
you.
don't have another meeting, have a lovely holiday. If we do, I'll see you then.
We're
Take
gonna
care.
see. We're gonna see because we just
We just
Just accepted that, right?
So we'll see you on the 21st.
and I hate to tell you, there's gonna be another application to be received when we see each
So
other
we'll
at the next
see you
meeting.
again in the new year. All right, all right.
All right.
All right, so we'll see you on the
Very good.
21st.
Good night, guys. See you in a few
Thank you.
weeks.
Yeah.
Good night.